Hello. Thank you for listening to and watching You Had Options. This episode, I have Sal Ellington from the very hot Boston punk rock band Rebuilder. Check them out on Instagram at Rebuilder Boston. They have a cool single out called Monuments. They also have, they did a streaming show that we talk about that they have vinyl on sale for from the live recording. Go check them out. Yeah, they're great. Great conversation with Sal. Could have talked to him all day. Yeah, thank you guys for watching and listening. Find You Had Options on Instagram at You Had Options. If you want to find me, it's at Mikey X Money. Yeah, thanks for listening. Hope you enjoy. Thank you again for joining me.
No problem.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be here.
Hell yeah! I was commenting on your nice The Biz velvet. Is it velvet?
Yeah.
What is it?
I think so. Like velvet velour,
Velour, just as nice.
Velour, just as nice for sure. Yeah. I mean, it does keep me warm during these winter months in New England.
Fuck, dude.
I can't complain. The summertime it got real hot to do the interviews in this outfit.
Is there a summer? Are you gonna have a summer uniform? Maybe.
The zip up like velour, like the one pieces. Those ones are a lot thinner and lighter, so usually I try to wear those in the summertime.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love it.
These are things that you just learn as you go.
Right. Well, you got to cut your teeth,
Yeah, for sure.
Oh shit. Of course, The Biz is your very fun podcast that you've been doing. Was that just a product of not being able to do band stuff and just another outlet to?
No, it kind of started because the music business is just very hilarious,
right?
Like if for anyone that's ever watched Spinal Tap, we all laugh at the jokes, not because it's fake. We laugh because it's true.
Yeah,
and in being in bands and working for bands, just the scenarios you find yourself in are just so laughable.
Right.
And I started putting them on, I would find myself in situations and put these small snippets on my Instagram because I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
And I heard that this person who I know was a music business teacher, and I was like, I don't know how that person's a music business teacher. They know nothing about the music business. So I was like, if they can be a music business teacher, I guess I can in the class of Instagram.
There you go.
So I started posting these things. People thought it was funny. I thought it was funny to kind of ask some of the musicians and stuff that I know, these very kind of tongue-in-cheek questions, but again, are true in the business.
Right.
And people seem to enjoy it. So I started so then when COVID happened, I started to maybe do longer interviews and maybe ask some real questions in it. Cause it's what else am I supposed to do during this? But I get really lazy with it because, if this was my full-time job, I'd be like, oh, this is sick. I can do this for a living. But it's not. So, I still have to like find ways to make money.
Right.
And then at the end of the day, I'm like, oh, I don't even have anyone lined up to interview. But I got to start getting back into it.
Hell yeah, man. I enjoyed it. I watched I watched the one you did with the Michael J. That was a good one. I enjoyed that.
That was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that one a lot too, because like he kept just talking in hypotheticals, and I was like, I need to know the real stories in this.
Right. Well, he did. I'm glad he brought up one story of being in Mobile and playing a show with us that I enjoyed.
Wait, well, was that one? Was that the one where they were
fighting?
They were fighting outside. Yeah, that's great.
I'll tell people go to Sal's Instagram and watch the Michael J one, because it's a good one. Michael J Wolf. But yeah, man, yeah, it's fun.
I always think it's very funny when what happens when that happens when everyone's had enough of each other, and there's like a full-on brawl in the parking lot.
Yeah.
And you guys, and like, it's even worse if you have to like go home together, like in the van.
And that, it's and as good as anybody, you're when you're in a band with somebody, you're in a relationship with them, for all practical purposes,
Right.
And so
right.
It's gonna get heated sometimes and weird.
For sure. And I mean, luckily in Rebuilder, like everyone in Rebuilder, I genuinely like a lot. And I think like that's why we've kind of like we've never really had those situations in the band. But my older bands, I mean, there was dudes in that band I was like, I hate that dude.
I feel that for sure.
Like I think in one of my old bands there was a kid who played drums, simply just because he was a good drummer, and I guess like he had been wanting to play in a band. So a buddy of mine was like, well, he's fine, like he could play, and I was like, cool. But he hated punk rock.
Oof.
Which was a weird thing to join a punk rock band.
Right.
And we never got along ever. And I just in my head all the time was just like,
this fucking guy.
This guy sucks so bad.
Was he like a metal guy?
He was a metal guy.
I knew it. I already knew.
Mm-hmm. And like me being a drummer, like growing up, like, I was always very particular about who plays drums with us.
Yeah.
And I remember he played with us once, like some practices and stuff. And I was like, okay, like he definitely understands the fundamentals of drumming and stuff like that. And then like after like a week or something, like he showed up with like double bass pedals.
Hell yeah.
Set that up. And I was like, what is that? And he's like, it's my double bass, man. I was like, yeah, you won't need that in this band. And he was like, oh, I'll show you. And like just put it everywhere, because that's what anyone that has a double bass doesn't know how to control themselves. So
I got it,
bro. And I was like, dude, I was like, no, that's terrible. I'll let you do it this practice. I'm going to tell you every time it's terrible. And it was terrible. Right. And I was like, you don't use that in this band anymore.
He showed up with his China cymbal and his rack mounted toms.
There was a China cymbal. There was a China cymbal. I was just like, God, I can't handle this shit.
Yeah. It's just funny how like going back to the biz, how like universal a lot of stories are, because I've had that same exact situation.
Yeah.
Let me see. Oh shit. Yeah, but you guys were able to do a pretty cool. It wasn't live. You guys filmed it.
Right, we filmed it.
What I guess just a streamed show. What do you?
I call it a live show.
Live
show. Yeah. It was probably one of the hardest things we've ever had to do.
I bet.
I will say that.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it would be easier than it was.
Yeah.
Like, I knew it would be a lot of work, but like, I guess if you asked me when me and Daniel thought of the idea to do it, I thought to myself, like, well, we've done tons of things that have been like really difficult to plan, but we've pulled it off. I mean, our New Year shows that we've typically done every year have been a lot of work, but they've always been done really well. And this is one that like when we were into it, I was like having anxiety attacks, being like, this might be the dumbest thing we've ever done. Like this might not work out, and it'll be like be a real good lesson for everyone
Yeah.
if it doesn't work out. But yeah, I mean, I like at the beginning stages of it, I was like trying to be very adamant about it actually being live. And in talking to some other bands that have done them that were like bigger bands, I was like, did you pre-record? And everyone I talked to was like, yeah, we pre-recorded. Absolutely. They were like, you know, that way we could take the audio file, like put it into like a session and like make sure everything sounds really good.
Right.
I was like, oh yeah. I was like, I really want this thing to sound really good. I want it to look really good too.
Yeah.
And with those two things, it was just kind of like, we can make this sound and look really good if we take the live element out. Because there's just so many factors that go into that, even being like, where could we do this thing? Are they going to have high speed internet where we could even be able to do that?
Right.
And once we got rid of that element, it was kind of like, okay, and like it even came down to where once we got rid of the PA system, we didn't do it with a PA system at all.
Okay.
We're like, oh, then we can actually do this anywhere that looks cool. We can do this in. And I remembered that my buddy had a barn that my old band recorded in a long, long time ago. And I was like, I just texted him. I was like, think we can use your barn? Like, I know it's not a studio anymore. Like, what's in there? He's like, it's just he's like, my drums are in there. I practice in there. Like, He's like, I got a family now. I don't do music. And I was like, sick, man. Can we borrow that barn? And he was like, yeah, man. Like, as long as you guys are safe about everything. And like, you know, we made sure everyone had negative tests and like we all wore masks. The only time we took our mask off was when we were actually playing.
Right.
But you know, we did 2 days where it was like a day of prep, getting everything ready so that the next day we could come in and just be like, all right, today we can hit record.
Right.
Everything's ready to go. And it was really awesome to do it that way because like even thinking back now, I'm like, if it was a live element, holy shit, it would have been a nightmare. Like there was so many times where we were like, even the day before, I was like, I think the audio is good to go. And it wasn't. And it's like hours later, still trying to figure out why no one can hear stuff in their in-ears and things like that. And I was like, man, if this was live, this would be the worst thing you would be watching right now.
Just some dudes in a barn. Yeah.
Yeah. It cost us like $1,700 in the end of the day to make that show, to put it together. And luckily we got sponsors. Like,
fuck yeah.
I emailed a bunch of companies and it was just like, I was like, they're pretty low packages. You know, I understand that, you know, it's hard for businesses to make money right now, even us as a band business.
Right.
But we were able to get like $1,100 and then the show cost $17 by the time we were done with all the expenses. And then I think we sold something like 220 tickets, which I did not expect at all. Like I thought there was a while where we were at like 30 tickets and I was like, all right. I don't think there'll be any money left over at all. Like, and like our friend Jay Moss, who did the audio, like he was just down to do this as a fun thing. And
right.
I remember I said to him, I was like, well, we can split ticket sales. That way, if it's like terrible, like we both lose. he was like, yeah, man, like that's fine. Like that's fine. And so I was like, oh man, there might not be any money to go around. Like I really hope, I was like, we could probably still pay you out of like some savings that we have. But like, I was like, oh, this might only be like 30 people watching. And then it got to 50 and I was like, okay, I feel better about 50. Like 50, like that's cool that people bought. And then, you know, there's things that you learn as you go on. Like, you know, we put it out there and it's one of those things where we factored in. We're like, typically Rebuilder can do like 100 people in a room easily in Boston.
Right.
But what does that look like on the internet where we have fans all over the place?
Yeah.
Can we rely on getting everyone to like tune in on the internet or not? And you know, once we put it up, like, you know, once after we actually had it recorded, I was like, we need a trailer for this thing. Like we need something that visually people can see the quality of it and think, oh, this isn't just an iPhone live stream.
Yeah.
I should buy a ticket for this. Because once we put that up, we sold more tickets. And then it became more like, okay, We're at like 75. We're closer to 100 tickets. I was like, if we get to 100 tickets, I will be very, very happy with 100. I will be like, cool. This feels like a thing that was worth doing. It's not a lot of money to go around, but it's fine. And it was just like, okay, having something visual for people to see rather than just like a flyer that says like, this is what's happening, helps a lot. And I mean, I think that's like a thing that I've learned even just in like other elements too. Like we're also used to putting flyers online and putting really nice flyers, you know, and we paid Tom Lowell to make a really nice flyer for us because he's very good. And I think that's always helped. But like, there's something to be said about just videos in general, even just small snippets. It's just like those things help sell
for sure.
And we were able to push it more. And then I think as we got closer and closer, I think I didn't get updates as ticket sales were done. I would get updates on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from Noon Chorus. And I think it was like the day before the show or like the day of, I was like, okay, we're at 130. And I was like, this is awesome. Sick. Like we're at 130. Like, I think we're good. And at the end of it, it was 220. We, you know, split half of it with J Moss. The other half, we literally just put it into like putting out the vinyl version of the show.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So
the is the vinyl being put out through anybody, or is it just you guys just putting it out?
It was just us, which is like another like you like again, you learn all these biz tricks as you go into it. You know, like. Yep. I learned early on, like, you know, I remember talking to a band and they were like, a lot of times you look at record labels and we're like, you have to just look at what they have to offer you, you know? And if it's just a credit card, then it's like, you can open up a credit card in your name and that's it, you know? And with this, we didn't want to make a lot of copies. We only wanted to make like 250. And we all know, like, if you go into looking into pressing anything, the price break point is always like 500 or 1,000 makes sense. You know, we didn't want 500 copies of this record around. But we wanted to put this out because people were asking us if we were going to do something like this. So I was like, okay. So looking into all the companies that put out vinyl, they're all just middlemen. All these different websites, and they all just have different prices and different break points. And I was like, okay, this one site seems like you can get 250 to 300 copies of the record for around 15 or 1600 before shipping. And I was like, okay, that's not too bad. I think that even like, you know, if we sell half of them, we would make back the cost of everything, and like it won't be hard for us, like once live shows happen again, to get rid of the other copies of the record for sure. It's something that I think someone would pick up at a merch table
for sure.
Once the 250 is gone, we'll never press it again. It'll just be this one-time thing that we've done. And just looking into like all the companies, I would see that they offer very similar things, and I was like, I think they're using the same company. So then like Pirate Press, I knew presses in like the Czech Republic,
right?
And that's and I knew that like some other labels too. So I just started looking on there and found that it's all like GZ Media in the Czech Republic. So I went directly to their site, translated it to English, and went what it looked like to put in an order in there instead of going through the middlemen, you know. And they wrote me back and they gave me a quote, and it was higher than the middleman quote than going directly.
Damn.
And then it was actually Adam from Say 10. I hit him up and I was like, who do you use for a label? And he was like, oh, hit up like A to Z Media. You can like, here's the contact. And I hit them up, and the pricing they gave me was way lower than any of the other sites that were out there. And I'm pretty sure that they use GZ Media as well. It's the same one. Like there's really only about like 10 or less plants in the whole like world to get like this done, you know? And with that, I was like, okay. And I sent them everything, and the price point was great. And I think we've already put the deposit down, so it's already being made. But I was like looking at that and I was like, okay, like it really just kind of puts into perspective, like what do you need the label for? Because if we got a record label to put this out, like let's say even like say 10 was like, I'll put out this record, right?
Right.
And if they put up the money for it, it's like, well, we had the money to do it. So we didn't need the money to do it. The PR behind it, it's like, yes, if you pay a lot of money for PR, you can get this whole campaign. But when we're only trying to sell 250 copies of the record and we're not trying to lose money on this thing, then there's really no budget for PR, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, we have people that have covered us before and I can always reach out to them and like get a little bit of press on it, like, you know, Dying Scene and Punk News and like New Noise, stuff like that. So, and if we know that we're going to like probably sell off all 250 by the time this thing is done, like once we can play shows again, then it's kind of like we really don't need a label for this because we're not trying to lose money on it. It'll move. There's only a couple of new songs on it. Most of the stuff, you know, it's a live set. It's more for people that like watched it or like to kind of collect records in that sense. Versus when you're putting out a new record, you're like, okay, these are all new songs. I want to try to make the band bigger than what we previously was.
Right.
So we do need to pay more. Like we need to pay for our campaign. We need a record label who we're looking more to use their like social media presence or audience numbers to try to grow the band in that sense. But for like a live like record, we were just like, yeah, that's not what this is trying to do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think that's cool. I was just picturing you trying to translate into Czech or.
Dude, Google Translate.
Yeah, I just love it. Yeah, I remember. I think when we were trying to we put out a full length in 2019. And I think whenever we were trying to get that pressed. There was like a fire at like one of the pressing plants.
I remember the fire at the plant.
Yeah, and I was just like, there's no other place. And like you were saying, there's literally only 10 places, you know. And so they're like, we're backed up 6 months because the fire. And I'm like, shit.
It's great, and I mean, like I remember that even being a thing where I was talking. Like, I think in, like, the records that we were doing, they were like, well, you're going to have to wait until after Record Store Day happens in April
that too,
in order to get your record done. Because everyone, you know, because that became a thing. It was just like all the plants were just like, shit, now we have this weird April deadline where we need to get everything done by.
Yeah. Taylor Swift is putting out a limited, you know, RSD.
Yeah, for Target.
Yeah, for Target. So we got to press 1 million copies.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild, man. It's just crazy because like, I hope that this doesn't happen with CDs. I don't want to make another CD ever again.
Yeah, yeah. The one place that I'm interested in doing something with is Third Man Records. They have their pressing plant. I know it's a little bit more expensive, but I would hope it'd be like better quality, like vinyl. I don't know. And that's the thing is that like what's the quality like line, but you know, separation?
I'm guessing it's great just because like I've been to Third Man a couple of times. I've seen the plant. It's awesome. Yeah. It's super cool. And I've always said that like I think everything that Jack White does is amazing except for his music.
Yeah, that's the same for me. Like
I don't like anything he's done musically at all. But he's like the fact that he's taken his money and been like, yeah, I'm going to make a record plan that like it might lose money, but like, why do I care? I'm fucking rich.
Man, as long as there are, you know, soccer games where Seven Nation Army is going to be playing, you know, he's making money.
He's making money. And like, even when I went there seeing that like he's bought the rights to like a lot of old, like Detroit music, like black music in that city and repressed stuff that like probably people wouldn't have been able to hear again.
Right.
Because these labels folded so long ago. I'm like, that's awesome. Yeah. I love that this guy does this with his money. And I'm willing to bet that his like record plant is like top quality. But I remember I ordered a Hives record from him, like the live Hives set that he did. And it was like, so moderately priced. I think it was like $15 for the record. And I think the shipping was like something so cheap. I think it was like $5 or $6, and I
Yeah.
was like, "This is awesome," because I probably would have expected Third Man to be like, "Yep, it's like a $20 record, and the shipping is probably like close to $10."
Yeah.
Which would be fine. I mean, that's usually normally what things cost. But again, I think this guy just like he loves having that plant and being able to do that. And
Yeah.
for him, he's like, let's just make things affordable that way. But it's definitely a cool plant. There's one in Portland as well called like Cascade Records, and then there's Burlington Record Plant in Vermont, which is awesome that they're like smaller record plants in the U.S. So you could probably save money if you can drive through and pick them up.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We stopped at the Third Man in Nashville, and yeah, it was just so cool. It was literally like Willy Wonka type stuff
Right.
for music.
Right.
And
yeah.
yeah, and it was even cooler that so much stuff is under wraps. They're like, okay, no cell phones past this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I see you take a cell phone out, you're gonna have to leave.
Stab you.
Stab you. Well, do you remember in The Godfather where they're taking pictures at the wedding, and a guy he grabs the camera and just snaps it in half? I imagine that.
Right.
I imagine that's
exactly
something like that would happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was interesting to me that you guys are big Hives fans, right?
Yes.
Because you guys did the Hives
cover set.
set at Fest. Yeah, they're one of my favorite bands, I think, just because their songs are sick, obviously, but then their whole live performances are just stupid good.
Right. That set the catalyst for that was kind of like me and my brother.
Yeah.
My brother Diego that plays in Ramona. We love the Hives, and it was one of those things where we had finished doing the Blink cover sets, and I don't think a lot of the dudes in the band wanted to do another cover set. I always enjoyed them, so I was just like, like the opportunity came up again, and I was like, I said to my brother, I was like, should we submit to do the Hives cover set? I was like, me and you, we'll just figure out who wants to do it. And he was like, oh, absolutely. And I was like, great. So like, submit it. We got the okay. I remember I went to practice and I was like, me and my brother are going to try to do a Hives cover set. I was like, I know some of you guys don't want to do a cover set this year, but I was like, if you're, what do you guys think? And I think like someone was like, yeah, I mean, I don't think Rebuilder has to do a cover set this year. However, if there is a Hives cover set happening, I would play in that one.
Yeah.
And then, I think Brandon was like, yeah, I mean, I would do that too. And then like Daniel was like, if everyone else is in, I guess I'm in. And I was like, great, awesome. I'm glad that this is how we have to arrive at the point. But it was a lot of fun to do, and I remember being in high school, and I would like often go to the epitaph.com just website,
right.
And on the Epitaph site, they had like right in the middle, it was like stuff to listen to. And, it was like during the time of like a lot of Burning Heart stuff coming out, which was like the Euro subsidiary. And I saw the Hives on there and I listened to it and I was like, all these songs are so good. This band's going to be huge. But I couldn't get any other records in the US. And they came to Boston. They played the Middle East. Like that place holds like, I think 500 or less.
Yeah. And
I couldn't get in because I wasn't old enough. Then the next year, they were on the Spider-Man soundtrack, and I saw that Sony, like Warner, was like putting out the same record that had kind of already been out for almost like 3 or 4 years at that point. We're putting it out in the US, and the way it was presented was like, this is a brand new band, this is their brand new record, and it's out. And then I saw them play the Roxy, which was like I think 1,000 cap room. And it was one of the greatest shows I'd ever seen. And I've been, then they blew up. They got huge. I've been a fan since then. And then their live show, they did like a live stream. And theirs was like really live. And it was like billed as like a tour. Because
did you get to watch any of those?
I watched them all. I said to my brother, I was like, I haven't paid money for any live stream at all.
Right.
Like, I don't really get a lot of enjoyment out of these. Like, you know, in like coming from a guy that made a live stream, you know, like that's why when we did ours, I was like, it really has to be good because live streams like are kind of lame, right. Or they can be done really poorly and they look lame, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, the Hives really don't half-ass shit though. No. So, you know, I said to my brother, I was like, do you want to go in on a ticket together? And he was like, I think I'm good with one show. And I was like, I think I want to watch them all.
I need to watch them all.
You know?
Because they were.
So
yeah, sorry, go on.
I mean, like, so like, yeah, and then another buddy of ours, he was like, if you're going in on that full pass too, I'll go in on that full pass. Because it was like $75, you know, which is like a lot, but like not a lot for like 6 shows. Yeah, but like still. So we just split, like, you know, once we realized that the login worked at all times for everybody, we, all 3 of us split it and I watched every single one. And I was so happy that I got the whole entire thing because the first one, even though it was awesome, was probably the worst of them just because it was like the first one. They're trying to figure it out. Yeah. Exactly. You know, and one thing that made me so excited was watching Pele struggle to sing on that first set. Because when we were learning them, I was like, I don't know how he's singing this high for this long. I'm like losing my voice. I can feel like it starts to get really tight and I can't project right. as much. And watching him on the same, it's a lot of the songs off of Tyrannosaurus Hives have that. Okay. As they go on later, you hear he's able to sing in his lower register and go high and be able to like be in a comfortable spot. Yeah. Where on Tyrannosaurus Hives, he's kind of always singing high at all times for a very long time. And when I saw him struggle with that, I was like, this makes me feel so much fucking better. Yeah.
The man himself was even struggling. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you watch them?
No, I just saw some of the videos that they were posting. Yeah, I should have watched. I don't know why I didn't, but they looked sick. I mean, obviously the production looked crazy, you know?
Yeah. There was like things I didn't like that they had one camera. It was just one camera the whole time.
Yeah.
And the person's walking around, which kind of gives you the sense of like, you know, like this is live and it's one feel. Yeah. And I understand like having the multi-camera, I guess maybe would have like brought in some editing aspects that they couldn't do. So they just did one camera the whole time, but they also did where you could call in through like WhatsApp.
I saw
that.
They had the
phone.
The like
dude,
red,
the phone was the
phone.
thing, the biggest shit show. Yeah. It like barely worked, and like when it did, like someone's like loud voice would come through. But it made it really funny because like you could tell that they knew it was a shit show every time they had to go pick it up, and you knew because you saw the other ones, and you're just like, oh god, what's gonna happen when they try to answer this phone? It was pretty funny though.
Were they So you were saying they build it as like a World Wide Web world tour, and were they playing at different times? Were they playing because one was like Sydney, one of the dates was Sydney. Were they playing at like 2 a.m. or
where they are? Yeah. Like I think me and my brother looked up to see like what was the time. Like we had our time, so like I think Sydney was like 2 or 3 a.m. for us, and I was like, I ain't fucking staying up to watch that. Yeah. But it was viewed for 24 hours, so I saw it later when I got up. But like me and my brother looked and we're like, yeah, their time. This show they played at like 1 a.m. This show they played at like 11 a.m. their time. Yeah. You know, but for whichever city it was geared towards, I think it was always around like 7 or 8 o'clock.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Y'all's set, was it, can people watch it still, or was it just up for?
They can still watch it through if you go to our Bandcamp.
Oh, okay.
And you just buy the audio. It'll come with a download. There's like a PDF document that has links so that you can download it through our my Dropbox account.
Okay.
So like if you buy the vinyl, or if you just any sort of thing with the record, if it's just the audio or the vinyl or anything, you get access to all the audio and you get the video as well. We'll probably make it available at some point, like via like just like YouTube, so anyone can watch it or stuff like that. But in the for everyone that like bought it early enough. We want to make sure they have like first
Special
dibs
time.
to that,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah.
Sure. Can you tell me the story of the picture behind you?
This one?
Yes, of you. For people just listening and people not familiar with Sal, there is a iconic, if I may be so bold, iconic image of you.
Selfies.
Selfies, yes. Iconic picture of you on a bed of roses on top of a bed.
Very American Beauty.
Yeah,
was the inspiration for that. That one came, well, I mean, the way the selfies just came about was that I was bored, which I think a lot of the things I do come about that way.
Right.
But yeah, I think we were on tour once and like Snapchat had just come out. I went to use the bathroom in the cafe that we were at, and the cafe had a giant tree and then the whole wall was a huge mirror. And I was like, well, this is the best opportunity I've ever seen in my life. So I just like stripped down, got behind the tree and took a picture, and then like kind of like sent it to everyone in my band. And like, they were just like, this is terrible. Please don't do this anymore.
And so you had to do it more.
Yeah. I mean, the second you say that, I was like, I did that the whole tour.
Well, shit.
And it was funny. I just would find different scenarios in, and then like, I didn't post them on Instagram yet. And then as like they got more creative, I thought it was funny enough, and I was like pretty shy, and I was just like, yeah, I don't know if I want to put this on the internet. And then I did, and like my internet account blew up. Like my Instagram blew up, where people were just like, this is the best thing I've ever seen. People wanted to see it more, and I was like, all right. I was like, it kind of like gave me, like, it kind of took away like a lot of like my shyness and social aspects and things like that, because I just stopped caring. I was just like, I just don't care anymore.
Damn.
And I feel like a lot more confident now, just because like it's like you're always just like, well, what's the worst can happen? Now I've jumped in, you know? So it's like, who cares?
Yeah.
You know? So then, you know, I just thought they were funny enough. And then once I started making merch of it, like, this is a blanket, was because like a Groupon came up where you could get blankets wherever the fuck you want on it. And I was like, I guess I'll make some selfie blankets.
Oh, yeah.
I remember this one was like, my aunt owns a flower shop in Brighton, Mass, like right near me. And I always have to help her every Valentine's Day deliver flowers. And I was like, do you have a bag of like rose petals? And she was like, yeah, I have like a couple bags, like, you know. And she's like, what, are you trying to do something nice for your girlfriend? And I was like, no, I'm trying to take some pictures. And so I went home, and like, I didn't have like an iPhone stand or anything. Right. And so I took my mic stand and I raised it as high it could possibly go and put it on a box and taped my phone to it with gaff tape, and like got the angle right. And then opened up an app where when you clap, it would have a countdown to take the picture. So there I am, like on my bed, fucking ass naked with roses on me, just clapping, waiting for the picture to take.
Man, dedication to art, you know.
Yeah, it's still everyone's favorite. I mean, like, you know, there's been some other really good ones, but that's always the one that comes down to where it's just like, I don't know. There's something so artistic and so stupid about it.
Man, I love it. Well, I see the American Beauty inspiration, but it reminded me of Prince in some way too.
I love that.
I could see Prince doing a picture like this, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many provocative photos of Prince too, where he's just like,
all of them are provocative.
All of them. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure if we did a quick Google search, you'd see Prince like laying down somewhere with his guitar or some shit. I don't know. I love Prince. I remember being a kid and hated Prince because my mom loved Prince.
Ooh.
My mom played Prince all the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I was like, she was really, my dad was like into rock and roll. My mom was into like disco and Prince. And I hadn't played guitar, so I kind of didn't really care of like how talented Prince was at guitar. I was like a teenager listening to the Vandals because I think Josh Freese is like the best drummer.
Right.
Being like, Josh Freese fucking sick, and like just looking at other drummers and like learning to play drums, and just like didn't really dive into that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I got older and got into like a lot more soul music and like started playing guitar, where I was just like, you know what, Prince is fucking sick. You know?
Fuck, dude. Yeah. The one of my favorite videos of Prince is him playing While My Guitar Gently Weeps at the
With all those people,
George
and he
Harrison
kills it.
He's got his bodyguard who he's obviously been like, hey, I'm gonna try and fall off stage at one point, and you got to push me back up on stage. And
I don't think that conversation ever happened.
you think he's just watching him?
I think that guy was just watching him, and I think that guy has been like, I've been working for Prince long enough to know that this motherfucker just does whatever, so I can't take my eyes off him.
You're right. Now that I think about it, I think you're right, Sal. But
I love that clip. I love watching that clip on YouTube all the time. It's just so great.
I watch it every once in a while. It'll just pop up in my brain. I'm like, I'm just gonna watch this clip because it's gonna make me feel good. I know it's gonna be good.
Always makes you feel good. Like
right.
he looks great. It's so effortless for him. You can tell that what he's doing, he's just like, this is nothing.
This is it. I was taking a nap 15 minutes ago, and now I just walked out on stage. That's the level of effortlessness.
Have you ever seen the Kevin Smith clips talking about Prince?
Oh yeah, at the I forgot what university, but he's talking at like a university about the documentary that he was. Yeah,
the documentary.
Oh fuck, that's one of my favorite stories.
For sure, dude. All the time, I show people that, and I was like, you got to put some time aside because it's long.
It's like 45 minutes, right?
Yeah, it's worth the watch.
Every single,
sure,
yeah. If you like Prince, it is definitely worth a watch for sure.
Yeah, because I've always felt the same way as Kevin Smith. That watching that, I was just like, yeah, like where does he shop? Like, like how does he get his clothes and things like that? And I'd always thought that same things. And so I was like really happy to see like someone like Kevin Smith, who's like very down to earth,
just a dude
having to deal with Prince,
right.
And being like, this is whack. This is so crazy.
I love the, there's the one bit he talks about where he's like Prince's assistant is like talking to him about like how Prince has shitty knees. And he's like, he's like, well, is it because like the high heels that he wears, And then Kevin Smith just talks like somehow his knees come up, like his knee injuries, and then doesn't he say like, oh, have you tried wearing like different shoes? And like that was the end of the conversation. And then the assistant comes back and it's like, you didn't talk about the shoes, did you? Like,
yeah, I did.
Are you insane? Why would you talk about the shoes?
Right.
And then just the whole, I'm just going to go ahead and ruin if somebody hasn't seen it and they're listening to this.
There's so many aspects of it you can't ruin.
Right. Just the whole, Kevin Smith is like, I think I'm done with the movie. And there's like, cool. And that's it.
That's it. What? There's no like goodbye or anything like that. Just whatever,
It's just like,
there's people like that who, like, I don't think Prince doing that is Prince trying to be a dick.
No.
I just think there's people like that who just like, they're so creative.
Right.
They don't think like we do, and unfortunately, they made so much money that they can stay in that world.
Right.
I'm a huge Fishbone fan.
Okay.
And I think that like someone like Angelo Moore is very similar to like Prince and how he thinks and how he deals with the world. But unfortunately, Angelo Moore is not as rich like as Prince was, where like he could fucking just hire a bunch of people and he's like, I'm just going to be my crazy self all the time. People are going to take care of it. Right. I don't know I'm crazy and it's fine because like I can just kind of keep being a genius. Because like, I've seen like tons of Fishbone documentaries and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, Angelo's like very creative, but he also has to like live with his like mom. And like, I don't think that he like has a lot of ways of making money besides just like trying to like, every once in a while he'll like put up a t-shirt and be like, buy my t-shirt.
Yeah.
Got my face on it and some words I wrote and like the link doesn't work, and you're just
why would it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's like, I was like, I wish Fishbone blew up to the point where he can kind of just be that and be rich and like just be that guy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Have you seen Under the Cherry Moon, the Prince movie?
I've never seen it.
It's worth a watch.
Is it?
It's insane. You know, Purple Rain is a good movie, just like from a movie standpoint of like, oh,
Sure.
here's the story, and
Right.
it makes sense. You know,
Right.
there's a rise, there's conflict, there's
Yes.
there's it peaks at a certain point. But Under the Cherry Moon, it was like Warner Brothers was like, okay, Purple Rain made us a lot of money, so we'll just give Prince whatever he wants. And so that's what they did.
Right.
And it's just insane. Definitely worth a watch if you're a Prince fan. I don't know if you're not a Prince fan, you might just be like, this doesn't make any damn sense.
I feel that way with, I'm a big Twin Peaks fan. I love everything that David Lynch has done. But like Fire Walk with Me is not a good movie.
Right.
Like it's not a good movie. It's like it as a Twin Peaks fan to watch it and kind of like see some other storylines and kind of like dive more into like the fandom of it. It completely is awesome to watch. But like I would never tell anyone just to watch that movie just as like a movie like lover.
Right.
You know, like those are some deep cuts.
Yeah. I haven't watched Lost Highway. I've been meaning to watch Lost Highway. But did you watch? David Lynch came out with a short movie on Netflix called like "What Did George Do?" Did you watch that? Ooh,
Is
buddy.
it just like some weird ass claymation and shit like that?
It's like 15 minutes long, but it's a trip because it's like, I think the whole thing was he was like, I made all this furniture, and so I'm just gonna make a movie about using this furniture or whatever,
Right.
And it involves a talking monkey, and David Lynch is interrogating him. Oh man, it's worth it. It's not as much of a time sink as a normal.
Sure, I
David
mean,
Lynch
I could to dive in 15 minutes or 20 minutes to watch something
yeah.
like creative like that is fine. Yeah. I mean, there's like with David Lynch films, I like them because like visually they're pleasing, they're very interesting, they're like super fucking weird. Where you're like, you usually have to look up online theories and things about it,
Right.
and you're probably gonna have to watch it a couple other times. And like, you just typically don't see movies like that. And it's kind of the same. It's the same way as like some music you listen to, like it's simple and very straightforward, and you know what it is, and you enjoy it. But there's stuff that's like, like there's things I've listened to and been like, oh man, I can't fucking figure out the time signature of like what is even happening in this, or like, this song is awesome. I don't think it's in regular tuning, and figure out stuff like that. And for me, that's kind of how I attribute like David Lynch's films. It's like that. It's like a song that's in weird time signature. It's got weird tuning. It's fucking all over the place. It makes sense in its own world, but probably outside of that, it doesn't. But it is very cool.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times people will be like, well, I just don't get it by the end of the movie. And it's like, well, this isn't one that it's set up that way.
Right.
You're not really supposed to understand everything that if you do, then he's done a bad job because he doesn't want you to,
There's like no resolution. It's
Right.
Yeah. Is outside of David Lynch, is there a movie you've seen recently that's been like, I gotta Google, title of movie, ending explained? Because that's what I usually do to like crazy movies. That's a movie that I love, where it's like I have to Google ending explained.
Right. I have to. I mean, every single movie I watch, as soon as it's done, I go to IMDb and look at the trivia on it.
Yeah.
Just because I'm always so curious on that. There was one I saw recently that was just like super fucking weird. And I can't remember what movie it was. Yeah, I can't remember. It was very David Lynch-esque though. It was on Netflix and it had Craig Robinson, and it was this like weird like he was like a weird like
he was like
magician guy.
Yeah. It's is it the one with is it Fly the Conchords guy, Jermaine? Is he in it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I forget what it was
It's
called.
like the title is like the character, like Craig Robinson's character's name
Yes.
is in the title.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember watching that being like, man, this is weird. Because I love Fly the Conchords and I love pretty much anything that Jermaine Clemens
Flight of
does.
the Conchords, I just rewatched, and I hadn't seen it in such a long time. And every time I was watching it, I had to like pause.
It's classic.
I probably
man.
have to go back through, but I paused it and I would just like take clips of it and post it on Facebook, on Instagram with like hashtag just like biz clips, because there's so many good biz moments
Jermaine.
in that whole entire. One of my favorites is like, I think it's like the end of season 2, which is where the whole thing ends. But like, they get booked at like the airport, and like
the hotel, like airport. Hilton,
yes,
with
yeah,
the leather,
yeah. So
the leather.
Right, yeah. And so they get the per diem, and they're like, cool, and they spend it all on getting the leather suits, and they're like, can we have our other per diem, like our more per diem? And there's like, no, I gave you the whole thing
per day.
Per day.
Yeah. That's Murray, their manager, is so good.
He's the best.
Yeah. I love the one of my favorite bits that is always just kicking around in my brain is the Nigerian prince that he helps out.
Right.
You remember that? He's like, why would somebody take advantage of me on the internet of all things? One of the most trusted things of today, you know?
I love when there's like Flight of the Conchords is like no longer has any of the original members, and it's like other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so good. It's awesome.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, there's so many music biz bits to it.
There's so many of them.
The tour,
especially like at the beginning of like, I think season 2 is where Murray has made it with those other guys, and so he's like now this like big executive and has all this money in the big office and stuff, and then they lose it because of like, you know, like copyright, like the song was already written by somebody else and stuff like that, and I'm just like, this is such good material.
Yeah. I think to go back to the leather hotel, you know, airport Hilton gigs, just the tour aspect of it, where it's like we've got 3 dates and they're like 45 minutes apart. One of them is in the park, you know, one of them is at the airport Hilton, and it's so like, you know, you'll see people not in the age of COVID, but you'll see when people are like, oh, we got this tour coming up. You know, it's a 3-day weekender that's, you know, 30 minutes apart.
If there's a tour happening,
right,
and you're able to stay home, if you're able to sleep in your bed every night from that tour, that ain't a tour, dude. That's not a tour.
Right.
That's not a tour. You're playing way too close to all those other dates. You're fucking yourself and the promoter on all those shows. Right.
Yeah.
You know, I'd always see that all the time, and it would just like irritate me so much. Right. I'm just like, you're home every night. You're home every single night. Like, fucking leave. Right. You know? Or just like, I mean, just don't call it a tour. Just be like, we have shows coming up.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
What was the worst show that you guys have played?
The worst show?
Yeah. Is there a show that for you sticks out that you're like, this is the worst? This is just terrible.
Luckily there's not a show that's like, fuck, this is fucking dog piss, that is sticking out in my brain. Of course, we've had like really shitty ones. Like one, it wasn't shitty because any of the bands, but it reminded me of Fly the Conchords or Spinal Tap type moment. Do you know You Vandal from Gainesville?
Yeah.
So we were doing like a 3-day or 4-day thing out to Texas with them, and the last date was in Dallas, and it was it was at this it was called a theater, and we get there, and it's like a arts and craft / / vegetable festival.
Sure.
And it's outside. And the stage is about 6 inches, 6 inches off the ground. And
right.
It's pretty much like playing at like a flea market. Not like a punk rock flea market, but just like a normal flea market.
Sure, yeah.
And so you Vandal, we're just like, man, we're here. We might as well just fucking set up and play, bro. They're gonna pay us at least. They said like, hey, we're gonna pay you, And so we set up all of our gear, and you Vandal starts playing, and they're a pretty loud band, and they've got because they're playing through orange cabs and like Mesa cabs, and so it's tough to be quiet with all that.
Sure, yeah.
And so I remember like whoever was like our handler or person in charge of the bands that booked us didn't look us up at all, and they're just like, oh, they must just be like acoustic groups or something like that.
Yeah.
And so you Vandal starts playing with their Mesas and their orange cabs, and the woman is just like constantly just like, can you turn it down? And Alex, the guitarist in you Vandal, he was like at like 0.5 on his amp, and he was like, I can't go any lower. Just might as well just unplug these things. But yeah, so they played about 3 songs. I think we just used all their gear, and we're just like, okay, you guys are gonna pay us, so we're just gonna do our thing. We just played 3 songs as well, and it was just like, oh man, there was some miscommunication somewhere. But it wasn't it wasn't anybody, it wasn't any of the band's faults. It was, it's just like the promoters were like, we need music at the at this thing. But yeah, that's one that sticks out in my brain. Is there a recent one for Rebuilder where you guys are just like, what the fuck is going on?
There was one I told recently in Florida that was just like terrible. But if we're talking Texas, there's one that comes to mind was like, I forget what the name of the place was, but it was something like, when we were looking on like where to play, I think we were trying to get a show in like Denton or something like that.
Okay.
And someone was like, "Oh, you guys should play like Fort Worth."
Dallas, Fort Worth area. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Same
like,
area. Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, so I forget what the name of the place was. I think it was like Hemp Hill, like something. And there was like a number to it. It was very much like Gilman-esque. Like you're like, oh, this place is legendary. Everyone's played here. And we're like, sick. And me and Daniel were like, this seems like the place like to play.
Popping off, yeah.
And I was like, cool. All ages and everything. And like we're like, great. And like all ages doesn't really happen here. So like being somewhere where that will happen, I was like, this is cool. I remember we get like close to the place and I'm like, there's nothing around here. Like at all. There's like even a convenience store is like a good 10-minute walk from like where we are. Yeah. And it's not like a real convenience store. It's just like a shitty liquor store.
Right. Yeah.
So we're like, all right, I don't know who's coming to this show, So we walk into this place and it seems like it's 2 levels. Like the first one you walk into, there's like couches and TV. It looks like you walked into like fucking like Beavis and Butthead's living room, Okay. And there's stairs that go upstairs to like this huge fucking area that is like skate ramps and stuff. And we're like, oh, sick. And so, I mean, right when we walk in, there's like all these like young kids, like teenagers and stuff on the couch. And they're like, just like playing acoustic guitar. And we're like, what's up? We're playing tonight. And they're like, oh, cool. Yeah. I'm so-and-so, like, I'm playing tonight too. Whoever booked the show should be here later, but like, yeah, you can bring in your stuff and like load it in. And we're like, cool. So like, we're very like, our train of thought is always like, let's get to where we're going first. Yes. Let's not hang out in the city that we were in. Let's like get to where we're going.
Yes.
If we can load in early and get all of our shit in there, Awesome.
Absolutely.
Then we have the fucking rest of the day to actually hang out and do whatever. So we go, I think we loaded all of our stuff in, and it was just like, I don't drink, but I think a lot of the guys were like, this is a just drink in the van day for a long time,
Right.
because there's nothing
to do.
else to do around here. I think we might have taken the van and gone to like some sort of center of town to get like coffees and stuff for a little bit and just kill a couple of hours or stuff before we came back. And we came back and there was like no change in like the scenery. It was just kind of like, all right, we walk in, there's still these 5 kids with acoustic guitars sitting around playing acoustic guitars. And there was a kid. So like I talked to that kid and I was like, so who else is playing? And he was like, we couldn't get any other band. So it's just me, acoustic, and then like you guys. And I was like, okay.
Right on.
And like to me, like as soon as I heard that, I was like, there's nobody coming to this. Yeah. The only person that came out to it was like my old roommate who is from Texas. And so we hadn't talked in a long time. And I was like, she was like, hey, I saw that you guys were playing. I'm going to come out to the show. And I was like, this sucks that this is the show that she's coming out to, you know? So we go up to like the skate area. The show's like going to start at 7 or whatever. And like, I even think that they were like, yeah, we're going to hold doors for a little bit just to see if more people show up, you know? And I was like, yeah, okay. I mean, I don't think anyone else is showing up, but like, okay, you know? And so finally the kid plays and it's just like a bunch of like really shitty acoustic songs, you know, it's fine. And he's playing to his friends, but he has this one song that was just like, I remember the chorus was just like, you are too good to me, my love, or you are so good to me, my love, you know? And it was just that over and over again. And while he was playing it, I think Craig was like, the chords for that song are super easy. They're just like G, D, like E or like A or something. He was like, we should play that kid's song when we go out. And I was like, yeah, that sounds awesome. We should totally do that. And so like, I think when it was our turn, like we started playing it. I've never seen this kid lose his mind. Like he just lost his mind. He was just like so happy. And he was like we were like, sing it, man. Like, you know, sing your song. And, you know, it was just like that at least made it memorable to me because I remembered that. And like my friend watched and she was like, yeah, I mean, it was good. Fucking nobody there. And I was like, yeah. So afterwards, this kid comes up to me and like, I'm like 30, I'm like 36. This had to be when I was like, you know, I was probably like 32, 33. Yeah. And this kid who was like 19 came up to me and he was like, do you want to settle the show? And I was like, yeah, man, let's settle. And he's like, can you bring someone else as well? And I was like,
what?
All right.
Okay.
And Craig was with me. It's usually like whoever sells the show is usually me or Daniel. It usually does it. But like Craig was there and I was like, I guess there's needs to, do you want to come with me? And he was like, okay. And so we go into this room. It's a small office. Like he takes the key and like unlocks the door and we go into the office. And he looks at us and he goes, can you please face the wall while I open up the safe?
Good Lord.
They're like, okay. So we like turn around and me and Craig are just looking at each other and he's like, is this like usually what happens during settlement? And I was like, no.
Look at the wall. You know?
So afterwards, so the kid goes, he's like, okay. And like we turn around and he hands me like an envelope and he's like, we didn't make the room cost today, but we had a really good month. So we're going to pay you out like $20. And I was like, thanks. He's like, yeah. You know, it's cool. Like, you know, we had a good month, so it's fine. And I was like, sick. Awesome.
Right
Thank you.
God bless you. Yeah. So he handed you an envelope of $20?
He handed me an envelope of $20. Like fucking, like it was like, but it was like almost like it was already ready to go. Like they were just like, yeah, this show won't do well tonight. What do we do? And they were like, well, just give them the $20 that we have in the fucking safe.
You know, we had a good month this month. So
had a good month.
Give them the $20.
Yeah. And I was just like, I never want to play that place ever again.
Oh, shit.
You know, I feel like that happens. Like that happens a lot. Like when you're like booking your own tours and you're small, you end up, taking a risk on these places. But I feel like we play a lot of places. I'm just like, I never want to play here again. Yeah. I'm keeping this in the Rolodex of my mind. I don't want to play here, and it's like, it's not that those places are not cool. Like for me, like that spot was great. If 100 kids came out to that and there was other bands on it, I'll play that all day. Yeah. I don't need a super nice venue. I just need some sort of community there. Yeah. If there's not that, then like, why am I here?
What are we doing?
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
there's definitely
$20.
It was a good month, man. Here's $20. I think, I'm sure you guys are the same way, where when booking tours, there's like, you got like these anchor dates of like, we know this is going to be a good show. Right. And so, this random Tuesday, in wherever, in Phoenix or whatever, right. We can take or leave. Hopefully it's going to surprise us, We
rerouted a whole entire tour once because we got offered a Frank Turner date. Like me and Daniel were booking a tour, getting holds for some of the dates. Right. It looked like it was like, all right, these are the dates. We kind of told everyone too, like, see if you can get time off of work for these. And then the Frank Turner camp hit us up and was like, do you want to play a show of Frank in Connecticut on this day? And it would be smack in the middle of our tour. And I told Daniel, I was like, we should move our tour, and he was like, oh, we already got the holds. I go, yeah, but nothing's booked. So we have to move it. Like we will make more money and play to more people on this one Connecticut show of Frank than we will probably on this whole entire tour where we're probably going to be headlining every night and we don't even want to headline every night. Right. Yeah. And we just moved. We moved it, we moved the whole tour. I think we moved it back a couple weeks or forward a couple weeks. I don't remember. And that tour was like fine. Like there was some good dates on that tour. There was a bunch of bad dates on that tour, but the most money that we made from the whole entire thing and the most people that we played to was that Frank show in Connecticut.
Yeah. Was it Frank Turner and the Sleeping Dogs?
Sleeping Souls. Yeah.
Sleeping Souls
band.
Okay. Yeah. Cause you guys did a tour with his
Mongol Horde.
Yeah. I couldn't remember the name. Are they more like, what are they more punk rock?
Mongol Horde is like his hardcore
band. That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah it's so it was like he had his old band Million Dead, and the drummer of that band is like one of his best friends, Ben, who's awesome. He's like one of the nicest dudes. So this is the band that they made together after, like, I think it was like after Frank already got huge or something, but it was always a thing that they'd been like writing for or whatever. Right. And then the keyboard player in Sleeping Souls, Matt, plays guitar in that. He plays a baritone guitar and there's no bass player. And I remember I was like, how come there's no bass player in this band? And they were just like, we looked for a little bit, but like we kept just writing songs together this way. And we were just like, well, fuck it. Let's just do it this way. Like who cares? But it's just like a fun thing that they do. That tour is very interesting because like Frank is awesome. We've been friends for like a while now. And he's always been just like really supportive, which is fucking great. You know, I met him just because his old tour manager was a really good friend of mine and asked me if I could do a short tour with them where they were like, I think they borrowed my van and then I was selling merch every night. Yeah. And we just became friends that way. So they wanted to do the Mongol Horde tour. Obviously those shows would be smaller than just a Frank Turner show, right? You know? And so I think it was like, we got the offer, but there was like, if you guys provide all the backline, you can ride on the bus. And we were like, yeah. Like,
fuck yeah.
I was like, I've been on tour buses before touring, like just as a crew member, never as like my band. Yes. And no one else in my band had like been on a tour bus before. Right. So I was like, yeah, we'll do that all day. And, you know, like I'm sure if you looked at the money of the tour, like that tour probably lost money because of the bus somehow. But I think it was just more that it's like there's a level of comfort those guys want for sure. I mean, like, you know, they're coming over here. They're used to being on a tour bus all the time anyway. And it's a short tour. So just like, why not? Fuck it. You know, they're not going to pay to rent any gear because they're just going to use ours.
Yeah.
And like, there's no there's no like crew members to pay because like we acted as crew members for them. Like we were just like, yeah, we'll help load in the venue every day and load out. And they grabbed their own shit too. Like watching Frank grab a merch bin of Rebuilder stuff and bring it into the venue. I was like, there's something so weird about this, you know? Yeah. But, you know, typically when like a band, like on Warped Tour, for example, like if you were to be on a tour bus, like even if you're sharing it with someone else, like you're paying your portion for there, or you're paying your portion for people sleeping on the bus.
Yeah.
It's typically very expensive. It wasn't that situation this time. So it was just like the trade-off was just like, yep, you provide the backline, you can ride on the bus. And it was one of those things where, you know, we did pretty good in merch every day. We had a guarantee every day, where at the end of the tour, we were just like, usually I take all the money and I look at it and I'm like, okay, well, this is how much money we have. Let me put in all the expenses. This is how much we've actually made. It's going to get deposited into the band bank account. It'll be there so we can use it for the next tour or for something else.
Right.
That tour, I was like, we don't have any expenses. There's no gas that we had to pay for. Dude.
That's
there was no
dream,
real
man.
meals. It was, dude, it was the dream. Like we got like per diems every day. So we were just like
leather jackets,
leather suits.
Oh, shit.
You know, and it was awesome. I was like, we thanked them like so many times. Right. So it's like, thanks for the opportunity. I don't know if there'll ever be an opportunity again where Rebuilder will be on the bus, certainly not for free, you know? But yeah, it was pretty awesome that at the end of that tour, we made a shitload of cash just because we didn't have any expenses.
Right. Wow. Yeah. That's great, man. That's so fucking cool. And, I've never met Frank Turner. I'll tell this story. We had an opportunity.
He's not gonna watch this.
No. But just for my sake, yeah.
Sure.
We had an opportunity to play with him in Mobile, and it was kind of short notice. And our drummer at the time, he's not our drummer now. I was like, we have to play the show with Frank Turner, you know. And he was like, man, I've got tickets to go see Eddie Money with my family on that night. And I was like pulling my hair out. I was like, all right.
I mean, it's Eddie Money, dude.
Fuck, man. Yeah, Eddie Money.
2 tickets to paradise? Come on.
But yeah, I was just like, okay, I don't think your heart is in the right place, man. You know, if you don't understand this situation.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, you know, typically in the past, like if we got offered a show, I'd be like, all right, let me check with everyone. But there's some stuff that I've come across the table where I'm just like, yep. You know, and I'm like, I didn't check with anybody.
Right.
Because something is happening on that stage that night.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know who will be the lineup, but it is happening.
Yeah. You guys got to figure that out. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You have to. I remember I was managing this band for a little bit. That was they were amazing. They were called Alan and Dale. They were like a rock folk type band.
Okay.
But no one knew them. Like no one knew who the fuck they were. They were awesome. And there was a band called the Drowning Men that were coming to Boston. And the Drowning Men had like recently like Flogging Molly was putting out their record on like their own label, and they were like they'd gotten like, you know, the whole like Brixton and Hurley sponsorship, so there was like a lot of hype on the band. I don't know if they could draw that well throughout the whole thing, but they were like opening tours for like Manchester Orchestra and things like that. So like people knew of them, and I had done some work with them because my buddy was managing them, and I'd helped a little bit. So when they came to town, I was like, "Can Alan and Dale open?" And my buddy was like, yeah, totally. Like we'll have them on the show. I was like, that's great. They'll fit well. It'll be a good show for them to play because there'll actually be some people there. Because usually they just draw their friends and like some townies, but that's about it.
Yeah.
And I remember like, I was like, yeah, I got you this show. It's with this band Drowning Man. And he was like, I don't think Kevin, who plays guitar, can make it that show. But they had 2 guitar players because the singer played guitar. And I was like, yeah, I mean, 3-piece that night, I guess.
Yeah.
He was like, it's not the same. We need Kevin. I go, I know it's not the same.
I understand.
Nobody in the room knows that's not the same. They don't even know any of your songs at all.
Yeah.
You just have to go up there. And, I mean, I think it was like a 20-minute set. I was like, ooh, you guys have so many songs. Right. So like,
figure it out. Just
figure out what are the best songs for you guys to play as a 3-piece. And he was like, all right, I think we'll do it. And I was like, yeah, you will. You guys don't have other shows. Like, you know? And they did it. And like, I remember like, I was like, how'd it go? And they were like, it was just really weird playing without Kevin. I was like, I'm sure it was. But like, you know what I heard after that show was a bunch of friends that went that was like, never heard these guys. They sound like the fucking Creedence. It's awesome. And I was like, exactly. Next time they see you and there's another guy on guitar and it sounds even better, they're going to be so stoked. Right. You know, like, and I remember the only other show I got them was with Skinny Lister. And I was pissed about the show because like my buddy was the promoter on it. And he was like, I was like, can Alan Dale play? And I was like, sure. And they were like down to do it, full lineup and everything. And they're like, Skinny Lister doesn't want a headline. And it was like a room that was like 190 cap. And I was like, well, everyone's coming for them. They're coming off of a Dropkick tour. Right. Like there's be tons of people there. Yeah, they rather not headline. They're really nervous about it. They don't think that they're gonna sell it out. Can like Alan and Dale headline. I was like, well, that's real fucking weird, man. Like everyone's gonna come for Skinny Lister. Alan and Dale's gonna play after them. No one's gonna stick around. Yeah. And he was like, all right, I'll talk to them. And they came back and they were like, yeah, they're really, you know, they're not budging on this. And I was like, I'll tell the guys. I was like bummed about it. And I told those guys and they were like, oh yeah, that's fine. And I was like, it's not fine. Because you shouldn't be doing that, but I'm trying. But I just like, I don't know if there's a way around this. They're like, oh yeah, it's fine. It was like, it'll be fun. And I was like, okay. Right. And the show sold out in advance. And I went back and I was like, can Skinny Lister headline now? And they're like, they won't budge. And I was like, fuck? The show is fucking sold out. And they wouldn't budge. And I remember like, we got there. You know, Skinny Lister played. The room was packed. I think it was an earlier type show too, where it was going to be wrapped by like 7 or 6, and like they played, and they were like, "Thanks everyone for coming out," and like didn't even tell anyone that like there was anyone after them. Right. You know, like no, I mean, why would you think there was anyone after them? It was obviously their show. And you know, afterwards there was like 10 people that stayed, and Alan Dale played. I mean, they had a great time. I mean, they had like 0 expectations about anything, which was great. Right. But like that always bummed me out so hard. It was just like, man, like this is such a like, it's so obvious that everyone is there for Skinny Lister.
Jeez, dude, that's pretty wild. Yeah. The just to go back to the biz, there's just so much like business type stuff you have to learn, you know, the hard way with doing music and touring, especially. And like, do not if it's going to be a kind of a if it's a Wednesday, do not say yeah, we'll headline, you know. Yeah. Stuff like that.
You got to know too. I mean, you know, it's just, there's times where we've often got just pushed into like the headlining slot, and like it generally happened when there was like a year where we had a booking agent. All those shows that we had when we had a booking agent were terrible. Yeah. You know, and it's just a matter of like
their heart's not in it. Like, it's not. They've got no skin in the game.
Or the skin that they have in the game is very small. Yeah, you know, sure. And it's one of those things. Like, there's a difference. Like, me and Daniel are booking a tour. Daniel's a promoter here in Boston. He books 2 rooms. He knows the game. Yeah, I've been doing this a long time, and like we know that. Like, all right, we're going to fucking Virginia Beach. Like, we know all these bands in Virginia Beach. Yeah. We know we have good shows in Virginia Beach. So like, we don't have to do a Friday in Virginia Beach. We're already going to have a good show there. So let's just do that show on a Wednesday, because if we have to headline that one, it'll be fine. People are going to come out anyway, you know?
Right.
The Friday night, let's do that in a place that like looks like they have good shows and there's other bands that are bigger that we can talk to and be like, can you set us up a show? And, you know, they're going to want us to have a good show too, because like they'll probably come through our city and do the same thing too.
Right.
And we know not to have them headline. We want them in like the second or third slot, so there's people in the room for it.
Yeah.
So we want to be treated that way too. When you're a booking agent, you're dealing with venues and like talent buyers for the venues, and they say, hey, we have this band coming through. They're from Boston. The guarantee is about $200. And that promoter's thinking, well, I don't know about this band, but the other artist that they have usually does really well. So I'll say yes to the show. I'll say yes to the guarantee. And then I'll just try to find some locals around if I can. And if I don't find anyone, and that's a shitty show that happens, the most they've lost is $200.
Yeah.
And the agent is taking their 10%. So they already got their $20 off of that
$20,
show.
yeah.
You know? So like that after the yes has happened, that agent keeping going back and being like, well, who do you have for openers? Or, you know, or like, can they not headline? Can you put them second or third and have someone bigger headline for that as well? Those conversations don't happen in there.
Right.
You know, the conversation is, yes, they're on the show. I can give them a guarantee. Done.
Yeah.
And it's over from there. And whenever that's happened to us, I've always been like the squeaky wheel, which is why I fucking annoy the hell out of all these people, because I'm just like, what's happening with this fucking show? Do you need me to jump in and find openers? And rather than them being like, yeah, that would actually help the show a lot, they go, no, it's fine. The promoter is taking care of it. And there's been times where I've literally, like me and Daniel, like there was a show in Philly that we had with single mothers, and I think their agent just wasn't, we didn't hear anything. And it was at a record store, Creep Records, where like, I know Eric from Goddammit, he owns that place. And I was like, who's running this show? And he's like, I didn't even know that show was happening here. He's like, it must be one of the outside promoter guys that does shows here. Because that guy hasn't been doing anything because he's been in the hospital recently. And I was like, I'm just gonna get like openers in Philly. We know I go, my brother's band's in Philly. I'll get them. They have friends. We'll get other ones, and I'll just tell them, I don't know what we're paying you, but if the show does well at the end, I'll just we'll pay you out of whatever is the door money. You know, and I think I remember asking single mothers, they're like, yeah, that's fine. And that show like sold out. And I was like, this wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for us doing something, you know. But sometimes you got to do those things because, again, like if your agent has already gotten like their fucking $20, you know, like I'm not working hard for $20. They're not either, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the because I do all of our booking, and it's the whenever it gets to, hey, I'm asking questions, and I'm like, hey, who's responsible for X? Who's responsible for, do I need to make a flyer? Do I need to get somebody in charge or get involved? That's the most frustrating part when they're just like, well, I don't know. Kevin usually handles, you know, but Kevin, you know, he broke. You know, he's got.
Where's Kevin?
He's got gout. Kevin's got gout this week, so you know he's out. You know.
Yeah. Even just like it's just like, you know, I'm always like, well, it's show's soon, man. Who's making the Facebook page?
Right. Yeah.
Like, where's the event page? Where's all this stuff? You know?
I only asked for the bare minimum of a Facebook event, a decent looking flyer, one that you didn't make in MS Paint, you know, and just something, just trying to find a decent local, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And we do these booking and we don't even take 10%.
Right. Yeah, man. It's all the fucking love of the game, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess, yeah. Charge it to the game, you know?
Absolutely.
We wouldn't be doing it if we didn't love it. I did.
I mean, that's the thing is like, you know, you get surprised in this thing. And
exactly.
Like when
you're
touring and you do different cities, sometimes you meet other bands that all of a sudden, like, you're like, these people are great and they care and they did us a good show and we're playing to a room full of people. And next time we come back, these people know us and stuff like that. And there's no better feeling than like being on stage playing to people.
Yes. Yeah. That obviously, you know, obviously every other band is in the same boat, but yeah, that's the thing I miss most, just fucking playing to people that you can tell that they enjoy, what you're doing. And that's the biggest thing for me.
Right.
Yeah, man. I got a couple questions. So I asked on Instagram, I said,
I'm curious to what people want to.
We got two.
Bust my balls about.
We got two good ones. They'll remain anonymous for just to protect the innocent.
Sure.
One was ask him about how much he loves the band The Bad Ups.
Oh, I know who asked you this one. My friend Carly, maybe.
I don't know. I don't know, Sal.
I've listened to them. I think I don't know this band personally at all. Okay. I think some of the stuff I've heard is like really good and catchy. This is just a preference thing. Maybe it's just me, but like I think this has gone back from even when I was younger. I just like production. And so I think if you're putting something out in the world, I want it to sound the best you think it can possibly sound.
Right.
I don't really like hearing band demos. Like, why do I want to hear like your demo? Like I don't want to. I want to hear what the finished product is. So I remember when I was hearing some of their stuff, I was just kind of like, I don't know, this doesn't really sound that good. Like things sound off time. There isn't a click there. Like I can tell there's no click because like there's things off time for sure. And then like a friend of theirs was like, well, they're about to release this. See what you think of this. And I listened to that and I was like, well, this sounds a lot better. Like it sounds like they went to a place. And I think they're really young too. And I think that's the thing with a lot of young bands is like, well, at least they're growing doing those things. Yeah. Like, I mean, you can look back at all the shit I've done. My old band stuff sounds like fucking dog shit. But at the time I thought it sounded really good and I paid money to have it recorded. But I'm glad that like, even with us, like with like the live stream that we did, someone else was like, are you guys going to do another one? There's a spot that you might be able to do it for cheaper. And I was like, we could, but it wouldn't be as good as the one that we just did. Right. If we do another one, it has to be as good or better. And I always kind of put myself in that mindset. We can't go backwards, So yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah. Do you guys record to a click track? Like when you're doing like new songs and stuff like that in the studio?
Yeah. Yeah, we figure out what the tempo is in the practice space. Then we'll play to that click so that we can kind of get comfortable with it.
Right.
And then typically when we record, we'll do the drums first to the click to a scratch guitar. And that way it's on the grid and we can, be in time and make everything sound good. If things need to be edited, it's easier to edit because it's to a grid. When we record, we've recorded a couple of times with Alex Garcia Rivera, who's the drummer of American Nightmare. He has a full analog studio in Medford, really close to here. And it's fun to do like one or two songs there. Like there's times where we're like, we have like one song, like we want to record this thing. Let's go try it with Alex. And it is just a very different experience as we're used to recording because it's all analog. There's no computers whatsoever.
That's wild.
And, like that one we've played live in a room. We've had the click going as like we start to like get the tempo a little bit. But you just have to live with like some of the things that happened during that time because, my take, which I thought was like fucking perfect for me, might have not been the drummer's best take. So then you're like, do we do it? Like the last time we were there was like, I think like 4 months ago or something like that. We did a song there for a friend of ours. And, I remember we like played through this song about like 10 times, maybe more, but there was like 10 kind of sort of takes. And like, he was like, yeah, I mean, he's like, they're not getting any better. Like track, like the fourth one you guys did was like the best one, I think. And I was like, all right, let's stick with that one then,
Yeah. Oh shit. Have you guys ever thought about going to God City Music in Salem?
God City was the first place I think I emailed to do a record with. I emailed Kurt and I said to him that I was like, we're a new band. We want to record our full length and this is our budget. And he said, my overhead is pretty high. I couldn't touch a project for that price.
Yeah.
He said, talk to my friend Jay Moss because he has way lower overhead than I do because the studio is in his house.
Yeah.
So Jay Moss was one of my first picks, but I just didn't think we could get him because he had a manager.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I got to go through a manager, going through a manager just means money.
Right.
You know, Rick, our keyboard player at the time, had just recorded there with Big D on, he was doing keys for a track. And so he was like, I have his email. I'll send him an email. And so he did. He wrote me into the conversation. I guess at some point, Craig and his high school band had recorded with Jay or had gotten it like mixed there. And so didn't Daniel's other high school band. So they were like, yeah, we kind of know him too. So I remember talking to Jay and he like gave me his prices and I was like, okay, maybe we'll just do like guitars or vocals with you or maybe just drums. And he was like, how much do you have for this whole thing? And I was like, this is how much I have. And he was like, all right, well, I have a week before I start recording the new Defeater record. And your price would like honestly just like kind of pay my mortgage for like the month. So like, if he's like, if you guys are prepared, we can do this and have like 7 days to do it or something like that. And I was like, oh yeah, here's the record actually. Like we already recorded it in our practice space pre-pro. So this is what we're going to do. Yeah. And he was like, you're super prepared. This is great. And so we just went in and did it and it was awesome. And he's one of my best friends now, which is awesome. So that's why like we always go there. Like I won't go anywhere else. It was one of those things where like there's places I wish we could record, like the Blasting Room in Colorado, or absolutely. Like like Electric Lady Studios or one of those things in LA or stuff like that. But like there's one thing I noticed that like, we would fly there, we'd need lodging and figure it out. Everything would cost more to record at the studio. And I see people doing that with Jay already. Like they're coming in for like, he's recorded a band from like Italy or Australia and they're coming in, they're flying in just to go to him. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, this dude knows what the fuck he's doing and his records sound really good, that he is the guy that people are looking for. And he's 45 minutes from our house. So
makes sense.
We're just going to keep using him because he knows our sound. We worked together when we both did. I convinced Ramona to do the record with him and him and I produced it. And it was really fun to like not be working on a Rebuilder thing and working on something else and like look at each other and be like, should we try this and this? And he was like, oh yeah, for sure. And like, it was great to do.
Not as precious, as like your own band.
For sure.
Right.
For sure.
That's cool. Yeah. Because the Statue single, that was Jay, right?
Oh, Monuments?
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. That one was, we recorded it. We got, because I wanted the money to go to charity.
Yeah.
I applied for a free recording studio day through this like Boston Music Awards, and we got it, and it was at the Bridge and Sound in Cambridge.
Okay.
And we recorded it, and it was cool, but like when we got the mixes back, I was like, the mixes are good. It's not what we typically sound like.
Gotcha.
And I said there was revisions I wanted. He made the revisions, but I was like, I mean, I could go with this guy all day, but like he did a great job. We have a certain sound,
right, that
Jay knows. So I remember I sent the track to Jay and I was like, what do you think of this? And he was like, the song is really good, but like, dude, he's like, I'll just do this. But like, if you give me like a day, just get me the stems, we can make this sound like a Rebuilder track. And I was like, great. So I got the stems and the whole session from that studio and sent it over to him. And I mean, dude, like we got the track back and like on the first listen through, I was like, oh yeah, this sounds big the way it needs to be and everything. And I was like, this is what this song needs to sound like. Cause it's like, it's a very dramatic song. It needs to sound very big and full. Right. I think I had like only a couple of notes and then he was like, oh, those are easy, fix them, and then sent it to me. So that's up there. That's why in that song it says Jay Moss mix in parentheses. Yeah, I
noticed that.
Because there is another one that is on Spotify with the original mix that was put out by the compilation that the Boston Music Awards people put out.
Okay.
And it's harder to find that one, which is great because I wanted to make sure that the one that we did that has the real mix that we like was the one that you could find easy.
Yeah, I just saw when I was looking earlier today, I just saw the J Moss version, and I was hoping that was going to be like a drum and bass, like acid garage version.
Yeah.
But maybe that's something you guys can work towards.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been trying to learn MIDI more and more, but I'm not that great at it.
Okay, so we did get another question from another anonymous person who wished to remain anonymous. They made that very clear.
Sure.
Why is TKK Chicken in Packard's Corner running such an insane BOGO deal?
Dude, I wish I could tell you, but the deal is wild. The deal is that you buy one large bubble tea. One.
Okay.
You get another large bubble tea, a bucket of wings, and a bucket of boneless chicken with it as well.
No, this is not a real deal, Sal. This is some Disney World fucking fake.
My brother is the one who told me about it because he's the one that told me about this TKK chicken in Boston anyway. But typically me and Daniel get together on Fridays and have like a practice where we just kind of go over stuff at the practice space and ideas. And I usually pick him up, and I said to him that when this Friday came around, I said, "You want to go get this crazy chicken deal before we go to the space?" And he was like, "Yeah." And like we both went. I still have a bubble tea in my fridge right now because like I haven't had it yet. We had so much food. I mean, we went to the practice space. We ate all that food. And then afterwards, like, he was like, "Do you still want to, like, play music?" And I was like, "I don't feel great."
Full of chicken and bubble tea.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
I don't know why they're running the deal. Honestly, that's a biz question that I can't answer. They're losing money on that deal every time.
Wow. Man. Oof. Yeah. Well, Sal, this has been good. Stay on for a minute, but I'm gonna sign off of the show right now.
Yeah, for sure.
You you had options, but you decided to talk to me today.
I did.
I appreciate that.
I would come back anytime.
Hell yeah. All right. Thank you, Sal.
Thank you.